Hello everyone, it is Joe here from OmniPoke, the channel that brings you guys everything Pokemon, and today we have another World's deck list. This time it's going to be the AquaBox deck, updated with all the new cards from Steam Siege, a couple of new introductions here, and I think it's still a pretty decent World's contender. The biggest question mark is whether Seismitoad can survive, even with Pokemon Ranger around. We'll discuss the deck, its matchups and stuff like that as we go through. Also, you may notice that I'm in a slightly different layout. Hopefully this will improve the camera doing the whole autofocus thing. Got some good feedback from that, and we've tried to change it up and make it look a little bit better, so hope you do appreciate that. So, starting off with the Pokemon, still 3 Seismitoad EXs. Really, it's going to be Quaking Punch for a lot of the time, in a few matchups where we can slow people down. This is really huge. Obviously, it's going to be big in Night March matchups where we're going to try and use Quaking Punch for the majority of the game, to be perfectly honest. Really to limit their resources, limit their draw power, limit their compressors and Ultra Balls and all that sort of stuff. Puzzle of Time even, to an extent. Really make it awkward for them to keep a good chain of attackers going. And it's really our only out to win the game, is if we can stop them getting a good rhythm, allow our big HP combined with Fighting Fury Belt to do good work. In other matchups, Quaking Punch can be a good early game sort of pressure option, slow people down. Other types of Elixir decks get shut off. In mirror matches, if you're the first to Quaking Punch, you're often in a much better situation. And it does set up good numbers for the second attack Grenade Hammer, which we do also use a lot in this deck. So the initial 30 damage from Quaking Punch can be up to 40 with a Fury Belt, and then we can do 140 with the following attack Grenade Hammer for just an extra energy, because we're playing exclusively water energies in this deck. So Grenade Hammer does 130 base, and we do 30 to each of our own bench Pokemon, I should say. So with the Fury Belt on from the start, we're doing great numbers by going 40 into 140. Really, really perfect for EXs, especially if the initial one is Quaking Punch. It means they can't put tools on the board and stuff like that. So very, very cool card. Quaking Punch is going to be huge for the most part, but then we do switch into Grenade Hammer when need be for the bigger numbers. So following on from that, we are playing 2 of the Articuno. Articuno is still really cool in here. The Chilling Side can help us out, can be a nice bailout option for things, give us an extra turn sometimes. Sending stuff to sleep. It can also be big in mirror matches because we're switching via free retreat from the ability, so we're always physically retreating, so actually putting status on things can be annoying for mirrors. But for the most part, we're taking advantage of the Delta Plus Ancient Trait so that we can take multiple prizes with Articuno. Tri-Edge is the attack for 2 water and a colourless, which does a base of 20 only, but then we do flip 3 coins and we do an additional 40 for each heads. So against lower HP Pokemon like Froakies, this is huge. Zoruas, Combees, you name it, we can take multiple prizes thanks to the Ancient Trait and really punish these things. Additionally, because we have the nice flexibility of movement, thanks to Manaphy, which I'll show in a second, we can set things up with Grenade Hammer and take multiple prizes there. Additionally, if we get lucky, we can deal with Shaymin EXs with a couple of good heads flips on our side, with stuff like Fighting Fury Belt. That can be really nice for taking 3 prizes. And sometimes it's your only win condition, so you can just go for it and get lucky sometimes to win games. So the main reason why this is the AquaBox deck is because of the ability from the Manaphy that we're playing 2 of in here. AquaTube allows each of your Pokemon with any water energy attached to have free retreat. So that's really, really nice. It's how we get flexible. We can move between our attackers, and it really does complement the deck really nicely. It does also have the attack for 2 water energy, which does 60 and heals 30 from each of your benched Pokemon. Very, very cool. It's sometimes a good out against Trevenant. So we're sort of negating as much damage as they deal with Silent Fear, which is pretty cool. So yeah, it's a good thing that often sits on the bench, but can go into the front in early sort of stages. For that early 60 damage, it can pressurize, again, lower HP things if you have no other options. Additionally, great against Trevenant. Next up, we're playing 1 Hoopa EX. Hoopa EX with a Scoundrel Ring ability is going to get into all of our dudes. Other than Articuno, everything in the deck is EX, so Hoopa is absolutely phenomenal, gives us great value in here. We are playing the Aegislash EX because Glaceon EX and Regice are pretty much coming out of this deck now because of Pokemon Ranger and its effectiveness. We've gone back to putting Aegislash EX into the list so that we have an out against the Vespiquen Vileplume variants. We just sort of throw him into the active position, stack him up slowly with waters so we get over their one Bunnelby and hope to mill them out, basically. Additionally, you can throw this into the active position when you're in awkward spots against Night March. It's not the best thing to do, but you can do it. It can be an out for you, so it's just a good card as a one-of in here. It gives us a lot of options and an out to an otherwise auto-loss matchup, so that's pretty important. A new inclusion from the Generations box is going to be the Shaymin EX, that's the land form. So 110 HP grass type with a 2 retreat cost. Obviously we can mitigate it with Manaphy. One of the reasons why this is a perfect partner for this deck is because we don't really worry about that chunky retreat cost. And it has the ability called Aroma of Gratitude, and once during your turn you may heal 20 damage from each of your benched basic Pokemon. So everything in this deck is a basic, so we heal 20 from everything on the field other than the active position. So again, this is a way around Trevenant. We have plenty of things for Trevenant in here. We have the Rough Seas, we have the Manaphy, and we have this. So we really should be owning Trevenant, to be honest. We have good search for this guy with the Hoopa, with this. We're also playing a Ninja Boy as well, so we should be able to get into this against Trevenant fairly easily to really buy us a lot of turns to win that game, pretty carefree. In other sort of EX sort of two-shot matchups, we can now heal 50 in between turns with Rough Seas and this, so the combination is pretty dirty. These Seismitoads heal so quickly. Moving between two of them and healing 50 a time is absolutely just dirty. So I think this is a really nice one-off inclusion to really improve your matchup against Trevenant. Pretty much swings it into, I would say, as close to an auto win as you can have in the card game right now. And additionally, against other EX decks like the Dark Box and those sorts of decks, you can really move between your EXs effectively and get a huge amount of healing done to make it very awkward for them. Following on from that, we are filling the complement of Shaymin EX, because these do share the same name, of course. Do be aware of that. With just 3 of these to get us drawing and all that good stuff. Pretty simple. We're happy with a count of 3. We do play a parallel city in this list, which I'll get onto in a moment. And like I said earlier, we're playing Ninja Boy, so we have ways of moving these off the board. But in the late game, as well as the early game, you want to have these options. So I think the count of 3 is probably the most correct. So let's leave these out here for you guys. And we'll move on to the items very shortly. Hopefully you can see this. Let me just get these on screen. I've done this terribly. There we go. That's good enough for me. Okay, onto the items. 1 Super Rod. Super Rod's going to recycle whatever Pokemon that we need to cycle, as well as energy to give us late game elixirs, or just have better outs into water energy later on. We are playing 1 Enhanced Hammer. I know Russell Lepar did very well with this deck. He was on the bubble at US Nationals, and he was praising how important Enhanced Hammer was for him throughout the day to improve your Night March matchup. Basically, because Seismitoad EX isn't always one-hitting Pumpkaboos, or it's never one-hitting Pumpkaboo. So what you need to do is you need to Enhanced Hammer in combination to sometimes make them force themselves into a bad spot where they have to get more double colorless energy down, even though you're not taking the prizes. So it's just a little bit of extra pressure against Night March. Force them to have these extra resources. Keep them digging to get into double colorless and just strain them a little bit more. Again, against these sorts of dark decks with Yveltal EX, you can get rid of double colorless energy. It can be very useful for you. This will come in handy in a lot of different matchups that you don't even expect it to. And it's just going to be really nice when you do pull it off. We are playing 3 Energy Switch. E-Switch is, again, one of these flexibility cards. It means we can pretty much have free retreat around the board as long as we can E-Switch something, then retreat out of there. Additionally, when we're using Max Elixirs and we want to power up our active Pokemon, we'll just Elixir to the bench, E-Switch it to the active, and we're ready to go. Pretty good stuff for us. Obviously, the deck is going to have 4 Max Elixir. It's the whole point of this deck is to accelerate water energy onto the board and use some of these more expensive attack costs. We're going to use 4 Ultra Ball to start getting ourselves all of our Pokemon. Huge value on Hoopa. It's absolutely amazing to get Hoopa with Ultra Ball. It really is just the nuts. Then we're going to have 4 VS Seeker. The VS Seeker's, pretty standard stuff. You may notice we're not playing any Trainer's Mail in this list. Typically there's been like a 3 count of Trainer's Mail. We've absolutely trimmed them down to 0. It's so that we could fit the space for this guy. Also the Enhanced Hammer is a thing that we can add in. And also one of the supporters I'll mention in a moment has been a cut that we've had to make for mail. I'm very comfortable going to 0 Trainer's Mail. Again, it's one of these things where we're expecting Item Lock, we're expecting Vileplume and Trev, and even to a certain extent mirror matches you should expect. So having 0 male feels kind of okay for this list. It's been one of these debates that sometimes they've been a 4 of, sometimes they have been cut down to 0. I believe some of the successful lists did play 0 male, so I'm pretty comfortable going to 0 myself. Onto tools, very simple, just 3 Fighting Fury Belt. We don't want to mess around with this. I know some people like the numbers of having 1 muscle band, but I think it's just so important to have the HP. Your first thought around World should always be, how do I beat Night March? And our win condition is keep a Toad alive with Fighting Fury Belt, so we need to increase our odds of having this guy whenever possible so that we can do those things. On to the supporters now. We have both of the new introductions from the new set, so we're going to play 1 Ninja Boy. Really, really cool card in this deck, certainly. We already have so many flexible options. We have so many different attackers. We can switch from a Seismitoad, going for Grenade Hammer, set them up, Ninja Boy out of nowhere, take 3 prizes with Articuno. It's a really cool line of play that we can go for, and we can do often as well. Additionally, when you're just sort of attaching things to retreat them, like sometimes you've had to, like Hoopa's been Lysandred up, you attach to him, you retreat out of there. Later on, you can Ninja Boy him, turn him into a Seismitoad EX, get 1 more attachment, and he's ready to go. So many different reasons why the Ninja Boy works in this deck as a one-of, and it's really, really cool. Additionally, when we have these easy prizes on our bench, the Shaymin, the other Shaymin, the Manaphy, we can Ninja Boy out, turn it into a non-EX, or just turn it into something with higher HP. Something like Aegislash EX is really great to Ninja Boy from a Shaymin EX, because if it's a Night Marcher that would love to Lysandre KO this, you Ninja Boy into Aegislash. Sure, they can Lysandre, but then they can't Hex it, and so they can never target this guy. So Ninja Boy is cool for lots of different niche reasons. Again, it's one of these things where against the item lock, it's an extra out. It's a way into Aegislash when you're under Varplume lock, and it's a way into Shaymin EX when you're under Trev lock. So really, really cool one-of. Obviously, the other new supporter is going to be Pokemon Ranger. Pokemon Ranger is really good for this deck. Again, mirror matches are in our mind, so we can get out of Quaking Punch lock. Additionally, the deck is all basic, so we need a way around the likes of Regice, the likes of Jolteon EX, stuff like that. They will still be played, I imagine, even though people are playing Ranger. You need to have an out for it, and I think it's worth having this in here just to help out with mirror matches alone. But additionally, we want a way around Jolteon, because I think that's one of the biggest ways it was punished at US Nationals. A lot of people were playing the likes of Mega Manetric Jolteon and stuff like that, and it really did punish the AquaBox deck, which was before Nationals looking really, really strong. We are playing one Xerosic, going to help get rid of Fighting Fury Belts on opponent's Pokemon. Additionally, it's going to get rid of the tools off of Garbodor, because we are fairly weak to Garb. We're very reliant on Manaphy to a certain extent. Definitely in the early turns, we want to get into our attackers as we can. Do bear in mind we have Quaking Punch to try and deny tools coming back onto the board once we do Xerosic, so we can pretty much have abilities for a large portion of the game when we incorporate Xerosic into the mix. We are playing 2 N. This is also a huge balancing card that we're going to need against the Night March players, and in general, N is just going to be a nice card to help us when it comes to the late game to slow down the opponent. Following on from 2 N, the deck is very, very efficient at dealing with Shaymin EXs. Grenade Hammer instantly deals with them. Very, very cool. Additionally, we want to take these easy prizes with the Articuno. Be as aggressive as possible. Lysandre allows us to do that. Following on, we are playing the full 4 count with Professor Sycamore. Sometimes this has been lowered to 3. One of the cuts I made a Trainer's Mail was to put back in a 4th Sycamore, so that we have that a little bit more protection against the item locking decks, get into the things that we need, because we're pretty much all in on Aegislash against Varplume, and pretty much all in on the Shaymin EX and our Rough Seas to win out against Trev. So just draw into those cards. More consistent, I think, with 4 Sycamore now, rather than just having a lone Trainer's Mail sat in this deck. It would look kind of weird. So, onto the stadiums. One big decision I made is to play 1 Parallel City. I remember when this deck was first dropped, and I was talking about it post Germany National Championships, I said that I would probably play Parallel City, and I've actually gone and done that now. I think it's the sort of time now to play this card, because we have the backup against Trevenant of this Shaymin EX. I feel a lot more confident playing this card. It's amazing in Mirror. You really rarely lose mirrors when you have this card. You parallel yourself so that you get rid of these things, and sometimes even these guys. Definitely this never gets played in that matchup, but you parallel these things away, and also you're limiting the other player's output. So you're getting double benefits in one single drop, which is so cool for you. Also, it means you get the last rough season, so sometimes that can help you out as well. So in Mirror, this is incredible. Again, it's a card for Night March. You may notice we're not playing AZ anymore. Ninja Boy has sort of half taken that slot, but additionally, I feel much more safe because we have Parallel to get rid of some of these more easy targets for the Night Marchers. We want to make them go through a heavy Seismitoad EX with this Fury Belt on. We don't want to have any half measures in here. We want to make it as difficult as possible for the Night March players, so Parallel additionally does do that for us. You're pretty much never going to put it the other way around because you're limiting your own water type's output. It can be an option in very niche situations, but I wouldn't advise it. Most of the time, limit your own bench. So many easy prizes go off our board, and it really does help out against those two matchups that I just mentioned. And following on, we're still playing the 3 Rough Seas. Even with the cool new Shaymin EX, we still like Rough Seas. It's still, the combination of both is so powerful a lot of the time. Healing 50 is just absurd in between turns that they can't really deal with a lot of the time. So very, very cool combo. The healing aspect is a huge part of this deck. Makes one of the reasons why it's so efficient in other EX matchups. And very, very cool card to see. Still as a 3 of, still pretty much a cornerstone of the deck, even as a 3 count. So rounding off with energy, we are just playing 2 lots of 6. We're playing 12 energy. All basic water, no need for any specials in here. Although DCE would be cool with stuff like Seismitoad EX and Sky Returning and stuff, you don't really need it. We just want to increase our outs as best as possible with these Max Elixirs. The whole deck functions on the water, gives us the free retreat with Manaphy, all of that good stuff. So no real debate. I think from the start it's always been 12 energy. I don't think anyone's really meddled with that too much. Maybe go down to 11, but that's if you're feeling really techie. I think because we've already cut the males, there's no reason to cut this down lower. So that is pretty much the list, guys. Really, we have a lot of tools in here to beat out everything. I think the biggest change for this deck is actually not with the list itself. It's with other decks gaining Pokemon Ranger. And other decks gaining Ranger means that we can't play the Regice or the Glaceon anymore. So we're pretty much all in on just Seismitoad a lot of the time. We're just going to be using Toad as best we can. Be as disruptive as possible against the lower HP things with plenty of Quaking Punches. And try and be efficient with Grenade Hammer when we can against the EX decks. Combine it with Quaking Punch a lot of the time as well. Really against Night March, this is the biggest question mark over this deck. Will it perform well at Worlds? Is whether it can beat Night March well enough. And it's weird to say that in my testing, you sort of have to cross your fingers. If they find the Ranger, you're not looking too good. If they don't, you're looking like you were before they had Ranger pretty much. And where Seismitoad can just be beefy enough, take a few punches, throw in the Enhanced Hammer into the mix can also be a nice card to sort of equalize that matchup. I don't see this losing more than 50% of the time against Night March, so there's no reason why this can't do well against everything else. And with a near enough 50-50 to Night March, even with Ranger, I think there's no reason this shouldn't show up at Worlds, especially with the cool Shaymin EX. If people can get their hands on them, it's obviously easier for Americans to get their hands on them than it is for us Europeans. It's going to be interesting to see if I can get one of these if I want to play this deck for Worlds. It's one of these things I have to be worried about right now. But in general, I think there's no reason why this couldn't be a good pick for Worlds. It has good matchups against other things. There's a lot of people tipping off the Dark decks of being good choices. Being able to Quaking Punch, denying their Max Elixirs, stopping their engine from running, whilst also having so much healing and just hitting the right numbers, means you probably have a good matchup against most of those things. The Parallel City means we have a much better Quad Zoro matchup if people are wanting to play that. It feels like it's a good check to the metagame right now. It's just whether or not you can be good enough against Night March. Right now I'm not thinking it's too bad, but some people may be put off just because this card is added into other players' decks. So let me know what you guys think about AquaBox. Let me know what your testing has proven, whether this can beat Night March effectively or not. And I'll be happy to discuss it all in the comments below. Let me know what other decks you want to see pre-Worlds. I will be going on holiday very shortly. Jack has already set off on his travels, so we're going to try and bash out as many videos as we can in this week, and I'm also going to try and get a few done sort of that we can just put up while we're both away, so it feels like there's not much of a gap. But yeah, we'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Please leave a like to this video if you did, and subscribe if you haven't already. For now though, it has been Joe from OmniPoke, and I will see you guys next time.